Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. A viewer requested I do a video on Sean Durzi's injury. A great comment. I wasn't going to, and I wonder why, because this is a significant injury to the Utah Hockey Club. It didn't seem right just to throw it into a game review video, so it took some time, did some research, and yeah, Durzi's injury is going to impact this team's blue line heavily. Looking at the current roster, this is the sixth defenseman Utah has at the moment I'm recording this video. So it looks like Valimaki would be promoted to the top pairing with Sergachev. Then you have Ian Cole with Kesselring on the second pairing, and then Bertuzzo, who's been scratched all season, should be making his debut against Anaheim. He'll be paired with Kolyachonok, it seems like. Bit of a veteran in Bertuzzo and a youngster in Kolyachonok. Bill Armstrong was on an interview yesterday when the news broke about Durzi's injury, and he alluded to calling guys up from the Tucson Roadrunners. So if you're a Utah fan who doesn't care about the Roadrunners, here's a perfect example as to why you should pay attention to the Roadrunners just peripherally. You don't need to watch all their games. I don't either, but here are the defensemen on the Roadrunners that should be called up just to see what works. It might not be the first guy that gets called up that will gel and work with Durzi's injury, but guys like Connaughton, who's an NHL veteran, remember when Utah signed Connaughton? I said if you see him in a Utah jersey, something went wrong. And we're at that point already, 4 games, 5 games into the season where something's gone wrong, missing such a pivotal defenseman in Durzi. So Connaughton might draw in. Connaughton and Bertuzzo are basically the same sort of defenseman, stay-at-home veteran, not really good defenseman, which is why he's in the American Hockey League. But then you got Koch or Koch. He's a free agent signing out of Europe a couple seasons ago. He's a warm body type defenseman. Again, a stay at home, big body defenseman. Zuber is way younger, more of a prospect than Koch. Koch, like I said, was free agency. Zuber is a draft pick by Bill Armstrong. He's big. He's got a long reach. Again, plays more defensively minded. Doesn't have that offensive prowess like Durzi. Lamoureux, to me, might be the best option to replace Durzi, but it is very early in his development, and you don't want to wreck that. You want to be patient with Lamoureux, also due to season in the American Hockey League, and don't just rush to call them up immediately in Game 5 of the season. They need some time with the Tucson Roadrunners, so you might not see them right now. Maybe, if the injury is very, very long term. Right now they're saying a couple weeks, maybe a few weeks, but maybe middle of this season, if there's still injuries on the blue line, you might start to see them dig into the highly touted prospects in Lamoureux and Duda. For trades, there's not much, and also you don't want to trade assets to replace an injury so early in the season. And again, we don't know the specific timeline. It could be like 3 weeks to 7 weeks, and you just don't want to give away assets just as a stopgap for those amount of weeks. But Liljegren on the Toronto Maple Leafs is publicly known. He's not happy with the situation. He's yet to play this season. He's up in the press box for the Leafs. They're looking to find him a new home. He's a former first-round pick in 2017. He has about 196 games played in the NHL, 14 goals. He makes $3 million for the next 2 years. But, Utah has a cap space. As long as he's not expensive, I honestly won't go higher than a fourth, maybe a third round pick to, supplement Durzi's absence into the lineup. If things cost a second round pick, then you don't go for trades. You go within your organization. Justin Howl recently on waivers. All 3 of these guys were on waivers, which is why they're on the list. I didn't just pick random defensemen I like. If a player's on waivers, then that team is willing to make a move or transaction for that player. Howl is on the Detroit Red Wings. He was on waivers last week, so maybe Bill Armstrong could call Steve Yzerman, formerly my favorite player of all time, and be like, hey, you're throwing Howl on waivers. He doesn't want to play in the AHL. We could use an experienced defenseman. He has 325 games played in the NHL. He's got some offensive upside. He is 32 years old. A lot of people dislike Justin Howl, but as a stopgap, he's worth $3.4 million for the next 2 years, sort of like Liljegren. He's a veteran if you don't want to rely on young players, and it's especially already a young defensive core in Kesselring, Kolyachonok, and Valimaki's pretty young as well. So if you want some stability, Howl would be a good transaction to make, and he shouldn't be too expensive given that he's been on waivers. And then some league minimum defensemen, Lindstrom on Montreal and Mitchell on Boston. They were recently on waivers as well, so they could be cheap options. They're both 25 years old and have about 100 games played in the NHL. But for me, it's a significant impact losing Durzi. Not only is he a top pairing defenseman with Sergachev, you're missing him on power play number 2. Sergachev's on the first unit. And honestly, a not really popular statistic, not popular, a well-known statistic, Durzi's been on the penalty kill a lot already this season. He's got 12 minutes of penalty kill minutes in just 4 games, so that's 3 minutes per game he's on the penalty kill. So one of these young guys is going to have to take Durzi's place on the penalty kill, and you're going to have to trust these young defensemen right here to fill in that gap, to rely on them. And to be honest, I was already skeptical and concerned about their defensive core with the Marino injury heading into the season. Now I'm like extra concerned because Valimaki shouldn't be on the top pairing. Cole shouldn't be playing every game. He's getting up there in age, even though he's doing okay. A couple of weird, undisciplined, high-sticking penalties. Maybe it's just a coincidence so early in the season. Kesselring definitely shouldn't be on your second pairing. Kolyachonok, a bit of a fringe AHL, NHLer, but I like the way he's playing. Bortuzzo shouldn't be playing. So this bottom 2 pairings, a lot going wrong there. So hopefully we get an update on Marino when he's coming back, because we sorely miss him. And yeah, this Durzi injury, it's a big one and it's going to affect them a lot. Luckily, they have a captain in Clayton Keller who overcame the adversity of a disastrous injury himself. I know Durzi's probably going to be upset at being injured for such a long period of time. He just signed a contract with Utah. He wants to get it started off on a good note. He loves playing with the guys. I'm sure every hockey player would be upset that they get a long-term injury, but Keller, he's been through it. He can talk to Durzi, teach him, calm his nerves and anxieties of being out long-term. They're friends off the ice and on the ice, Keller and Durzi are. So I'm sure Keller would be a great leader for players who suffer long-term injuries. It's such a shame that injuries happen in this game, but they do. It's commonplace, but hopefully Durzi comes back healthy, doesn't miss a step, and could fill back in. And hopefully Utah's, point race, win race doesn't really get sidetracked too much by this injury. But it might. Honestly, it's a pretty big deal. And I'm not confident in these 3 players replacing Durzi because they're more defensively minded, whereas Durzi's offensively minded. Whereas Lamoureux and Duda, they have that offensive upside to their game as opposed to the first 3. So a lot of tough decisions for Bill Armstrong, whether to pull a young prospect out of development so early in the season and put him in the big show. But we'll see. Hopefully Utah responds. Hopefully it doesn't affect them too much. Hopefully guys like Valimaki are up to the task. Kesselring, Kolyachonok, there is a chance that they thrive with more ice time. I don't think so, but it could happen, and we just have to trust the coaching staff and trust these players that, they could step up and perform better than what they have been. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.